Welcome to GoVMlab, India's first job-ready VMware learning platform where professionals meet experts to revolutionize their VMware careers.
So now the next topic, what do we have it, is resource pool. That what are these resource pool? And there is another reservation type, which we call expandable reservation, right? So whatever reservation we have discussed, this reservation we are defining at the VM level. So these were VM level reservation, but now there is a one more new construct got introduced, and that construct we call resource pool. And whenever we configure resource pool also give us another level of reservation that we call expandable reservation. So that is what we're going to go and discuss in this particular module. So let's understand what is this resource pool. A resource pool is a hierarchical partitioning of CPU and memory resources. Resource pool can exist in standalone host or in a cluster. Resource pool can contain other resource pool, a child resource pool and virtual machines, and resource pool exist as peer to your refer to as a sibling. So what does that mean? Okay, so now let me explain you the concept of resource pool itself. So let's go back to the plain slide what we had it. Okay, I'll just use this particular slide just to explain you the concept of resource pool, right? So resource pool, so we are trying to discuss the concept of resource pool. What is this resource pool? See, the resource pool is something like hierarchical approach. What is the hierarchical partitioning approach? You have it, right? This is what the resource pool is all about it. So just assume a scenario, take a hypothetical scenario. You are the CEO of the company, right? You are the CEO of the company. So I'll just draw you here, right? So let's say you are the CEO of your company. Well, I'm not good in the in this drawing, but let's say this is the CEO. So here's the CEO of the company. Now this CEO has a company where it has, let's say, 10 employees. It's a startup. So it has a 10 employees, right? So here he has this employee 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth, right? So there are some employees in the company. It's a startup and they just have a 10 employees, and here is the CEO, right? So what happens in this particular case? See, what is the job of the CEO? He has to make sure that all the projects what he has committed to his clients and customers has to be delivered in time. And at the same time, CEO is not the work for the company, right? Ultimately, he needs the resources who will be doing the jobs and finishing the task, right? So obviously, he has to make sure that every employee has to be happy. Every employee requirement has to be satisfied, right? And that is where the entire organization works in the same way, right? Now, this architecture we call flat architecture, right? This architecture, if you see, right, we call it as a flat architecture. In some of the organization, you might have heard something called flat architecture. What is the meaning of flat architecture? There is no layer of VP and then direct senior director, senior manager, manager, and lead and all those things, right? It's a flat architecture where you are the employee directly reporting to the CEO of the company. And then whenever any appraisal is coming into the picture, the CEO itself knows that who is doing what and what are you supposed to do it, right? So he can keep so in this particular example, the CEO can keep the track of every employee requirement, resources, and expectations. And accordingly, he will go and do the appraisal in that way, right? It is fine. It makes sense. It is fine. It is a very simplistic architecture. It's a very flat hierarchy you would be seeing in many startup culture, and because they don't follow those kind of things. Now look at the other scenario. The other scenario where you are again the CEO, but in your company, you have a 1 lakh employees. You become like a, let's say, TCS, Infosys, Wipro kind of organization, which has a 1 lakh employees, and you are the CEO of that company. Now imagine the scenario, you have a 1 lakh employees in your organization and you want to keep every employee happy, right? Otherwise, people will leave the company, then how your company will grow. So obviously, as a CEO, your goal is you have to address the requirement of every single employee. You need to understand the expectations of every single employee. You also need to keep the track of every single employee. You can't come and say that if this guy come and say that, sir, this guy was not working well, I was working well, please go and give me more appraisal. You can't blindly rely on these kind of things. You need to have some data points, some process to be in place. Otherwise, someone will start saying that no, he was working only 9 to 6, I was working 18, 20 hours for next 1 month, right? So I supposed to get more appraisal, more hike. Nobody care about these things, right? So you can't blindly follow this kind of stuff. So that is where what happens. If it's a 10 employees, as a CEO, you can keep the track of every single employee, right? And you can meet the requirement and all those things. But imagine a scenario where you have a 1 lakh employees in your company. And if you have 1 lakh employees in your company, is that even feasible? Is that even feasible for you to go and is that even feasible for you to go and actually keep the track of 1 lakh employees and keep them happy about it, right? That's not possible. So because it's not possible, so how do we solve this problem, right? So how do we solve this problem? We solve this problem in a new way, which is called hierarchical approach, right? So if I am the CEO of the company, I would be the topmost guy, right? Because I am the CEO of that company. Then what will happen? You will have a next hierarchy of the, let's say, GM. You will create general manager for each BU. Then what will happen? Inside that GM, you will have a some VPs, right? Here just have a one VP, or here you will have a, let's say, two more VPs. Then you will have a VPs. Then what you will do? Then you will have directors within each VP. Within director, what you will have? You will have senior managers, right? I mean, just you can understand that, right? So, and within that senior manager, again, if I go and draw down, you will have a manager. You will have a manager here under each senior manager, right? And then every manager, you will have some employees who are reporting directly to you as a manager. So what I'm trying to explain you, look at this thing, how I'm simplifying this problem. This is my CEO, right? But then this is the approach. What do we have it? Then this guy would be coming here. Then this guy would be having this approach. This guy would be having this. This guy would be having this approach. And then this guy will have some of the employees right here, for example, right? So this is what the approach, what do we have it, right? So this is CEO of the company. This is become, let's say, general manager of every BU. Let's say you have a networking, security, cloud BU. So you will have those things, right? Then every GM will have a senior director. Sorry, senior VP. So vice president. Within the GM, you will have a VP. So you will have a VP. Within that VP, you will have a director. So you will have a senior director. Within the director, you will have a senior manager. So you will have senior manager. Within that manager, senior manager, you will have a manager. Within that manager, now employee would be coming somewhere here. Look at that. Look at this approach. Look at this hierarchy. In the previous example and this example, do you see the big gap here? This is what is called hierarchical architecture, right? Now, why I'm trying to explain you, because this is what the concept of resource pool. Because now imagine if it's a small organization where you just have a 10 employees, why do I need to have GM, VP, senior director, senior manager? No, man, my employee can directly reach out to me and I can get his problem solved there itself, right? But then when you have a larger organization, 1 lakh employees, 10 lakh employees in your organization, not a CEO, every employee will start reaching out to the CEO. Imagine a scenario if that would have been the case. What would be the life of CEO then? If every single employee is trying to go and reach out to the CEO about his daily concerns. To solve this problem, we created this hierarchical structure that you have a problem, you talk to your manager, because manager is responsible for solving your problem. If your manager has a problem, he will go and talk to his senior manager. Senior manager has a problem, he will go to his senior director. From senior director, VP to GM. So now, if GM has a concern, look at that. This CEO has only keep the track of 3 BUs. That's it. So if he is getting the budget of 10 lakhs, for example, how this budget has to be distributed, he does not need to care about these employees anymore now. He just need to understand that which BU have been performed better for me. If it's a cloud BU have performed better for me, I will give more money to this cloud BU and I'll cut down the budget for these guys. So if he's cutting down the budget here, implicitly it will be cut down. from top to bottom, right? That is what it happens. But the good part of this approach is that it's a very structured hierarchical way of controlling the resources. So in this particular case, every employee is also happy because they are getting what they deserve. At the same time, CEO objective is also met, that every employee of my organization is satisfied, and the kind of structure we have created, this structure is working for us, and then basically helping our employees to keep, right? So that is what the hierarchical structure is all about it. And this is what the concept of resource pool. So there is a concept of consumers and providers. Okay. In the virtual world, there are two terms. There are only simple thing in the virtual world. We have simple two things: consumers and providers. Consumer will always be virtual machines, because virtual machines are the one who will consume the resources, right? Virtual machine will always and always be the consumer of the resources, where providers will be the one who is providing the resources. In our case, it could be your ESXi host who can be providing the resources, or it could be your cluster of host which is also providing the resources, or it could be resource pool which is actually providing the resources. So we have these three providers depending on your infrastructure, whether you have a single ESXi host, a standalone ESXi host, or if you have created cluster of ESXi host, they are all resource provider. Because ESXi will not consume its own memory, right? He has this memory, and this memory to be consumed by the virtual machine, but managed by the kernel, right? Similarly, the resource pool, you can consider this in this entire structure. If you see, right, this is my ESXi host who has the resources. This is my virtual machine. The employee is my virtual machine. Whatever you see, these objects in between them, right? We call them as a resource pool. We call them as a resource pool. And these resource pool, you can consider that as a someone who is actually become a provider for the virtual machine, but consumer for the ESXi host. So you see, ultimately in this example, senior director is also person, manager is also person. So he also take the salary, right? For his for himself, right? But in the virtual world, if you take this example of GM, VP, senior director, these are considered as a resource pool. These resource pool are not consuming resources by itself. Within that resource pool, you will always have a VMs. So VMs are the one who is going to consume the resources. Now it's your call that if whenever this VM need a resources, he should go and talk to ESXi host directly, or you want this VM to go and talk to his resource pool to get the resources. That is the basic difference between whatever we have learned so far, where we are creating a VMs, and whenever VM need a resources, he's talking to the ESXi host directly for the resources. But now between VM and ESXi host, we have created this entire hierarchy of logical objects called resource pool. And whenever VM needs the resources, now it will not have an authority to go and talk to the ESXi host directly. He will go and talk to his resource pool. That boss, I need a more CPU and memory. Can you give me? If resource pool does not have a memory, he will go to and talk to his resource pool. It's something like, as an employee, I am not happy with my appraisal. I cannot go and talk to my CEO. Though I know that budget is coming from the CEO only. CEO is the only one who is really releasing the budget, but I don't have any rights to go and talk to my CEO directly that I supposed to get this my hike. Why you have given me such a lesser hike? I will leave the company. This guy will come and say that, boss, I don't have any clue about it. So what is the approach here is that you as an employee go and talk to your manager if you have a concern. You will go and talk to your manager that I suppose I work this. I supposed to get this many appraisal, this many hike. You have given me 50% less hike. I either you revise my pay or I will leave the company. So in this particular case, your manager is the right person because he understands the context about you, what you have done in the entire year, not your CEO, right? Your manager understand your construct, your construct. The manager understand that the context, what you are coming from. So now the manager knows that okay, he is a very good resource and he is actually not happy with the appraisal, and I really need to retain this resource. In this case, what will happen? This manager will go to his senior manager and take this request. He will ask his senior manager that it's a good resource. Unfortunately, he is not happy with the appraisal, and we need to retain him. Can you allocate more resources to me so that I can pass on the benefit to my employee? Senior manager has a budget, he will give it. If he does not have a budget, he will go and take a request to his senior director, right? And that is where the hierarchy happens. and all the way the request go to CEO, right? That is the idea. So as a VM, you will be talking to your resource pool for the resources. If your resource pool does not have a resource, then he will go and talk to his resource pool. And that is where the concept of parent and child resource pool come into the picture. So if you have interest in learning VMware more in depth, not from an administration perspective, but from the architect or consulting perspective, then join our VMware vSphere Zero to Hero Data Center Expert program. This particular program has been highly rated by all of our learners. 100 plus careers have been transitioned successfully with our Zero to Hero Data Center Expert Deep Dive program with the 100% placement record. Now, what are the key highlights of this program? As you could see that it's India's first job-ready VMware learning program, which has a 70 hours of intense learning with the 80 plus hands-on labs. 40 plus scenarios would be presented to a learner as a challenge questions to assess their learning. We do have a mentors having a 15 years of experience and the certified professionals. You would be getting opportunity to have a one-on-one in-person doubt clarification session with the VMware mentor, and this particular Zero to Hero program will also preparing learners for a L3 or senior level profiles. Now we have transitioned many careers with our deep dive program, and you can see some of the feedbacks right here on your screen. These are the feedbacks what we have received from all of our successful learners who has transitioned their career with us. So what are you waiting for? If you want to become VMware expert or want to master this technology, then call us now today on the given number, or maybe drop us email on the provided email address. Thank you.